Tonight's meltdown from Donald Trump is exactly the kind of political train wreck you can't look away from. On live television, Rachel Maddow didn't just criticize him, she dismantled the entire narrative Trump has been clinging to piece by piece in front of millions of viewers, and the reaction, pure rage. Trump is reportedly fuming after Maddow mocked the collapse of his latest political stunt, exposing the chaos, the backtracking, and the embarrassing retreat that's now unfolding in real time. What we're watching isn't strength, it's a president spiraling, lashing out while the story around him unravels. And tonight, the spotlight is brutal. Maddow called it out on air, and Trump absolutely cannot stand it. 2-hour rums buddy and rums in 3 bad.
After months of protest, what happened when they killed Alex Preddy? There was a small d Democratic flex against which the Trump administration just crumbled. Republicans in the Minnesota state legislature, quote, "It's clear that Operation Metro Surge is causing more harm than good. It needs to end. We need to, quote, de-escalate. We need to, quote, pause targeted operations." Again, that's Minnesota Republicans in the legislature. A leading Republican candidate for governor in Minnesota drops out of the race for governor today. A surprise announcement. Quote, Republican Chris Maddow made a stunning exit from the Minnesota governor's race today, saying he cannot support the National Republican Party's stated retribution on the citizens of our state, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so. The lead in the Star Tribune, quote, in a surprise video announcement, he said, United States citizens, particularly those of color, live in fear. U.S. citizens are carrying papers to prove their citizenship. That's wrong. Maddow called ICE's Operation Metro Surge in Minnesota, quote, an unmitigated disaster, saying at the end of the day, quote, I have to look my daughters in the eye and tell them I believe I did what was right. And I'm doing that today. As he quit his race for governor as a Republican, saying he could not stand right now to run in Minnesota as a Republican. It's also Republicans in Congress. Quote, the events in Minneapolis are incredibly disturbing. The credibility of ICE and DHS are at stake. There must be a full joint federal and state investigation. We can trust the American people with the truth. Quote, a thorough investigation is necessary to get to the bottom of these incidents and to maintain Americans' confidence in our justice system. Republican governors too, quote, enough. It's not acceptable for American citizens to be killed by federal agents for exercising their God-given and constitutional rights to protest their government. At best, these federal immigration operations are a complete failure of coordination of acceptable public safety and law enforcement practices, training, and leadership. At worst, it's a deliberate federal intimidation and incitement of American citizens that's resulting in the murder of Americans. Another Republican governor, quote, what we're seeing on TV, it's causing deep concerns over federal tactics and accountability. Americans don't like what they're seeing right now. Another Republican governor, the Trump administration needs, quote, to recalibrate on what needs to be done. Recalibrate. The Democrats in Congress moving too. On the Senate side, even Democratic senators who have sided with Republicans in the past, who have voted to fund the Trump administration when other Democrats didn't want to do that, even those Democratic senators, basically all the so-called moderates, the conservative Democrats, they came out and said they will not vote to fund the Department of Homeland Security and ICE. And that is a vote that has to happen this week. Democrats saying they are not going to do it even if they have done it before. In the House, the number of members of Congress who are signing up to an effort there to impeach Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, that races up to well over, look at that, 140 co-sponsors. I was going to say over 100 now. It's now at 140 co-sponsors of the resolution to impeach Kristi Noem as Homeland Security Secretary. And last week, there were a handful of House Democrats who did vote to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Those handful of House Democrats who voted to fund the Department of Homeland Security last week have this week started apologizing for it. Democrat Tom Suozzi in New York, quote, I failed to view the Homeland Security funding vote as a referendum on the illegal and immoral conduct of ICE in Minneapolis. I hear the anger from many of my constituents, and I take responsibility for that. I have long been critical of ICE's unlawful behavior, and I must do a better job demonstrating that. Some Democrats changing their previous position to say now they will not vote to fund ICE, and some Democrats who already voted to fund ICE saying, oh, wow, that was wrong. I'm so sorry. I didn't get it. I'll do better. This is called political change. And even in the sinkhole of sniveling cowardice that has been America's business so-called leaders, even there, they're starting to ever so tentatively squeak that maybe, possibly, if nobody minds, they might want to express that they're mildly uncomfortable with what Trump and the Trump administration are doing. Chief executives of Target, Best Buy, General Mills, Cargill, Land O'Lakes, Hormel, U.S. Bank Corp, the Mayo Clinic, 3M, and dozens of other large Minnesota employers issued a public letter Sunday calling for, quote, an immediate de-escalation in their state. And yes, that is too little. And yes, that is too late, but it is way more than they were willing to do before. So take it, bank it, and build on it. We even saw some of the old graybeards of U.S. politics rouse from their retirement pastimes and diversions to say something. President Barack Obama and President Bill Clinton each issuing pretty stirring statements condemning Trump's attack on Minneapolis and praising the strong, peaceful protests of the people there in response. And you know, we are conditioned to be bored and underwhelmed by anything done in Congress. And honestly, by Congress, by candidates, by brand name politicians, by even state elected leaders, we are conditioned to expect that the actions of anyone in politics who is not currently the president are just, not very powerful actions. They're just not very important. But we are conditioned to believe that in a way that is not actually keeping faith with who we're supposed to be as a country. Because what we inherited from the founding fathers of this country is a democracy that was explicitly and purposefully designed to be decentralized and divided and responsive to the people. And when the people push in a concerted way, what we are seeing is that the country is working the way it's supposed to. The levers of power are moving. There is a political response, a small d democratic response. And yes, that means the president's poll numbers sink further into the bedrock, including on immigration, which he really at one point wanted to be his signature issue. And he is now running from. But the other forces of political gravity start to work on him as well. He may not want to be subject to democratic force, but he is. And in Congress and in state government and in party politics and in business, which to them all means money as well as power, you are seeing political shift happening. And that is because of the people. It starts with the people. It starts with the protests that we have seen. Principled, peaceful, relentless protest. It works. That is the source of this shift. Peaceful, powerful, relentless, principled protest works. It uses democratic means to save democracy. That is what made all of that is what has made all of this political shifting happen. That is what has forced the Trump administration to change course. That is what has forced Trump to back down. Principle, peaceful, relentless protest is the democratic means of saving a democracy, and that is the only way to win for the long term. So as they pull Gregory Bavino and federal agents out of Minneapolis tonight, be very clear on why this happened. If you were part of those protests, if you were part of the peaceful democratic advocacy to get ICE out of Minneapolis tonight.
What Rachel Maddow did on live television wasn't just mockery, it was a spotlight on the chaos and incompetence that have become trademarks of the Trump administration. When Maddow laid out the facts piece by piece, what emerged was a portrait of an administration that talks tough but constantly stumbles when reality intrudes. Trump has built his political brand on projecting strength and control, yet the moment someone publicly dismantles the narrative, the response is predictable: anger, blame, and another outburst aimed at critics instead of accountability. That reaction says a lot about how this administration operates. Rather than addressing legitimate criticism or explaining failed policies, Trump lashes out at journalists, turning every uncomfortable question into a personal feud. But the real issue isn't Maddow's sarcasm, it's the substance behind it. When policies collapse, when strategies backfire, and when the administration scrambles to rewrite the story after the fact, people notice. The anger coming from Trump isn't the sign of a leader confidently defending his record, it's the frustration of someone watching the carefully crafted image of dominance crack on national television. And moments like this reveal why the administration spends so much time attacking the press, because when the facts are laid out clearly, the gap between the rhetoric and the reality becomes impossible to ignore.